We're going to begin. Welcome everyone. Hello. Thank you for coming and sitting with us. My name is Martha. I'm a DJ and a broadcaster on NTS and sometimes Radio 1. And today we are going to be focusing on balance beyond the booth. One of my big passions outside of music and radio is trying to look after myself. I have a run club for DJs which is called Tempo. And I've got some lovely guests with me today that you're going to get to know a little bit better before we start diving into questions. But if you've been to any of the open forums so far today, you'll know it's all about you guys and asking questions. So we really want to hear from you. If you do have a question at any point throughout this whole chat, please put your hand up and someone will bring a microphone to you so you can ask your question and we can all hear you very clearly. So yeah, feel free to interrupt at any moment because we really want to hear from you. So let's spend a bit of time getting to know our panelists, our guests that we have today. Mantra, I'm going to start with you.
Hello, is that on?
Would you like to tell everyone a little bit about your journey in music so far? And if you're modest, I will be picking up on it.
Okay. I'm a DJ and a producer and a promoter, and I do radio. You got to do a bit of everything now, don't you? Jack of all trades. I've been DJing for over 20 years, and I run a club night called Rupture. It's a jungle and drum and bass night. We've actually been at Corsica Studios for 15 years. We're celebrating our 17th birthday this year. I co-founded an initiative called EQ50 to address the gender imbalance within drum and bass, alongside DJ Flight, Sweet Pea, and Chicaboo. And we run a mentorship with 10 mentees in partnership with 5 record labels. So yeah, I mean, I guess in terms of like production, that's something that I really feel I've only like properly given myself permission to do in like the last year. And it's the kind of creative part of me that I'm just loving at the moment and really looking forward to exploring. But my heart and passion really lies within community and within making sure that dance floors are inclusive and making sure that we're bringing through young people, because drum and bass and jungle for me was really stagnant for a long time. It was the same DJs on the same big raves week in, week out, and I felt there was, I think they have a responsibility to take in making sure that they didn't, you know, it was not each one teach one, it was just the doors were very much firmly shut. And so with Rupture, when we started it, we really wanted to pay respect to the pioneers and the founders, but make sure that we are always creating space for young people and young DJs and producers to come through.
I feel like you've touched on so many interesting things already there. But one thing about you is that you've dedicated a large percentage of your life to music, and you've mentioned these stages of evolution throughout the genre that you love. At what point did you start to consider balance in your career, looking not just to 100% music, but like the rest of your life and adding in a bit of balance?
I've got 3 kids, so it was coupled with motherhood. I've got 3 little boys, and a really weird thing happened to me after I've had each of my children, where I kind of enter this crazy state, which is almost like this like mad creativity, this like rush. I remember like organizing festivals, and I'm like, you know, I've got my baby in a little pouch here and calling people, and then like you kind of come out of it after a few months. You're like, what was that about? Like that was just like, I think it was just like, I don't know, lack of sleep or whatnot. But for me, it's balancing that, because I think every parent probably feels guilt and shame and not being good enough and trying to do your best and trying to juggle it all and wanting to be this peaceful parent as much as possible and present with your child, but then you're trying to hustle on the side, do you know what I mean? So it's like all of that can feel very chaotic internally. And so for me, I think as the gigs have got busier, particularly in like the last 2-3 years, is now that I've got 3 boys, is it's really come at the forefront because I've been struggling so much in the last 3 years. I've always been a busy person. I like to be on the brink of max out. It's kind of my sweet spot. I don't know how healthy that is. But you know what I mean? There's so much that I want to do. But when you have children and, you know, you need to create, you know, you need routine and you need kind of harmony and consistency and all those kind of things that sometimes don't work that well with this lifestyle, something has to give, and it does, and that means having boundaries, that means saying no to certain things, and that also means realising that on a personal level with your creativity, you can't do everything you want when you want to do it. I have so many ideas, there's so many things I want to do, and I hope I will do them, but you just can't do it all. Do you know what I mean? It's like you've got to wait for when the time's right, you've got to be really patient with it because the kids come first, always.
Absolutely. When I think about balance beyond the booth and I think about you, I always think about your Glastonbury this year, like your first time taking all the kids, is that right? But also DJing. That's the ultimate balance.
I took my eldest to Shangri-La. I was playing at like 1 a.m, and they were like, I took my niece as well, and they were like raving down there, and they were so excited. By the time we got there, they were so tired. So they just crashed, and they were like on stage, like, Mum, you nearly finished. Mum, how much longer? And I'm like thousands of people. I'm like, 20 minutes, son, 20 minutes. Take my phone. And he's like, okay. And it's just like, you will rave. You will stay out late. Don't let me down.
Oh, that's so brilliant. So yes, hopefully you're getting to know our guests, our panelists right now, and if there's any questions that relate to your experience, your life, hopefully you'll be getting to know who is best to field such a question to. Charlie Dark is here. Whoa. Oh my gosh. Just being attacked by nature there. Charlie.
Hello, my friend. How are you?
Let's focus on you and your journey so far. Would you like to tell everyone a bit about your journey through music, through sport?
Yeah. So my official title, and I'm going to give myself some flowers, is Charlie Dark MBE. Because I just got an MBE for services to young people in running. And I'm very proud of that and you will find out why as we get to the story. But essentially my story is, started DJing around 1983, got signed to Mowax Records, kind of around 92, had a project called Aftercare Blues, kind of trip hop project. Then we got a big deal with Sony Records. You know, it was all about to happen. Some of my band members are here as well. And it kind of crashed and burned, kind of. Mental health was quite poor. Kind of woke up one morning and was just like, I've got all of the things that life has told me I should have. Big record collection, trainer collection, girlfriend's in New York, Mercedes G-Wagon is outside, but why am I so unhappy? Went for a run, Christmas Day 2006, tried to run around the park as fast as possible, because that's what you do when you're trying to impress people in your family who don't run. Failed miserably, but came home feeling very alive, more alive than I'd felt DJing or performing or being on stage or producing or remixing or any of that stuff. And I was just like, whatever this is, I want to share this with as many people in my music community as possible. Came up with this project called Run Dem Crew. Rest is history, kind of we've been going for 16 years, and we're one of the running crews credited with changing in the face of running, not only in diversity, gender, participation, class, so many things that we've kind of brought to that. And, kind of got back into DJing during the pandemic and radio broadcasting and juggling all of that whilst being a dad to 2 teenagers, which is an interesting thing to be going through at the moment. But essentially my thing is just about giving people good vibes, and particularly younger people, tips to survive the industry, because it is called an industry and a business for a reason. It's not fun time, it will chew you up. And I think a lot of people come into this not realising that essentially you're in a field where you're always judged by your last gig, the last record you made, the last public appearance. So if your mental health is fragile, or you may be suffering from anxiety, or there's anything that's kind of in there that could be triggered, every time you go to work it's being triggered. And then you're in a space where you've got thousands of people who've had pretty shit week because life is hard at the moment. They're coming in there to rave, get rid of their bad energy. That's got to go to somewhere. Generally it's going to end up in the DJ. And in fact, you realise, and this is the reason why you can go and play to thousands of people on a Friday night and then be feeling so lonely when you're in the hotel room afterwards, and suddenly this thing that at one time you would do for free, that gave you so much enjoyment, now becomes a trigger of many, many problems. And my thing is, I don't understand why the music industry continues to ignore that. Because if anything, if I look at all the panels, this should be the busiest one. If you're really thinking about having a career in this industry and be doing it when you're my age, Tony's age, and people beyond, because I'm going to be 53 soon. I've been doing this since I was 13. I'm still in it. Whereas I know a lot of people who've come in, they burn brightly for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and then they are out, never to return again, which is a real shame because we miss your creativity and we miss the energy and we miss the contribution that you bring to the scene. Because when you're gone, then it becomes stagnant. You know what I mean? because then you're left with the people who don't really care about it, who are just in it for the money.
Yeah.
You know? My name's Charlie Lark.
So Charlie, with your experience bringing to the table today, what does the phrase balance beyond the booth mean to you?
I heard a really interesting thing. There's this rapper called Rakim, kind of noticed as from Eric B. Rakim. He's noticed by one of the greatest rappers of all time. And I remember watching this interview with him, and he was like, when I'm making my albums, I don't listen to hip-hop. I'm listening to jazz, I'm listening to everything that's un-hip-hop related in order to get ideas. So I look at balance as kind of, we've all had that thing where the DJing's going really well in the bedroom, and then you've got a day job, and as you're going to the day job, you're getting ideas for the project, for the album, whatever, and then suddenly you give up the day job to become a full-time DJ musician, and then it starts to get hard, because now you're deeply in it, and you're not having any interactions with outside world, outside influences, outside people, different cultures. You're just in music culture, which is quite insular, because the formula has not changed from when it first began back in the day, which is essentially, let's convince as many people as possible that this is popular and you should buy this. Let's not get it twisted. And so for me, balance is just about making sure that I'm putting as much energy into the booth and that side of the craft as I am into myself, because if I'm not feeling 110%, I can't give the people 110%. And for me, the dance floor is a place of healing. It's a place of medicine. It's a place of connection. It's where people come together. I have to make sure that I turn up in great state of mind so that I'm reading the right energy from the room and I'm giving you the music that you need at that time.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What if you're not feeling 110%? What would you do?
Some of the best sets I've ever played have when I've been brokenhearted or super angry, but I know that it's not sustainable. And so for eventually a kind of, you know, because when I first started DJing, I DJed in a lot of places where there'd be fights, people are pulling out guns, knives, and all that kind of like, that kind of energy is, I realised a lot of times it was the people who were putting the parties on, the people who were doing the door, the venue, that were contributing to the reason why these parties were getting mashed up. So I realised I've got to change my energy, and you know, so that a more positive energy is coming into the
But like, if you're not feeling good, do you have any like things that you do to push through it? Is what I'm saying.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
So, simple breathing exercises, things that you can do, positive affirmations, which sounds really weird, because I think a lot of times what happens with music is you lose sight of why you started somewhere along the line, and it's really important to go back to like the very first day of like the first time you touched record, made a beat, and think about what that moment felt like, and then kind of trace right up to now all the highlights and the lowlights, and what you suddenly start realizing, there's a pattern, and if you follow that pattern, it puts you in a certain space. So then you start following the more positive pattern, which means the type of people you work with, the type of gigs you accept. So I will work with promoters that they know if my mental health is not good during the week, we're checking in. How are we doing? You going to be okay for Friday? You going to be okay? Is there anything I can do to make it, you know, easier for you? I don't want to work with the promoters who are just like, oh, you had a really bad shit mental health week, okay? Well, I expect you in the booth. No, man, I'm not. There's enough of those people, but there's enough of the other people for you to do it a different way. Because it's really important, because the industry has burned so many people, icons, but yet we think it's not going to happen to me. I don't know anyone who's in music who at some point had a really, really tough time. And at some point, it's got to stop, because invariably what happens is we lose people, you know, because the music industry doesn't take care of people when you have problems.
It's difficult because it's a very vulnerable job where it's kind of like how we were talking earlier, there's no fixed salary. So each month the gigs are coming in and you never quite know what you're going to be getting. Do you know what I mean? And so therefore talking about it publicly online makes you feel like, oh, if I look like I'm complaining and like I'm a bit miserable and like I've been struggling and not enjoying the last 2 gigs, then promoters might see that and go, well, there's a million people who will want it. It's not that I don't want it, it's just that when you are finding it hard, it can be very difficult to kind of be vocal about that.
The thing I find is like, and I don't want to get onto you because I know you're just sitting there, you look beautiful.
No, I'm listening, man.
Okay.
Soaking in the wisdom, bro. Don't worry about me.
The thing is, what I find is when I like travel around the world and I'm talking to like, you know, the big mega DJs, you know, people I've, you know, the people that you've grown up with who just somehow have managed to smash it and are now rinsing it. They are going through the same things that the bedroom DJs are going through at this current time with promoters, politics, and so on and so forth. The difference is they're in a position where they can say no. And what I always say to people is, and the thing I've learned with Run Them is it's okay to say no. And yes, that promoter might be like, you know what, you're too lippy, you're too vocal, I don't want to work with you. You know what, cool. Let me go and find some people over here who have got better principles, because there's a reason why you've been working with Corsica for 17 years. Because they take care of you. There's other clubs that you try to do your thing in, that you could be in, but they don't take care of you. So the thing I say to all you know, everyone in this room is there is always an alternate way, and you do not have to go the way that the industry tells you that you need to go. If you're really in it, and you're as brave as you say you are, get your crew together, stand up for yourself, and say no. If enough people say no, eventually people have to take notice. It's okay to lose a gig. DJing is not going anywhere. It's been here for ages. It's going to be here for a long, long time. So people are making too much money for the music industry for them to suddenly be like, you know what? All the DJs are complaining. We're going to get rid of them. Not going to happen. They're going to try and scare you with the AI and the so on and so forth. But the thing is about, you know, DJs, when you see a great DJ, you're just like, you know what? That cannot be replicated by a computer. That cannot be replicated by anyone else, because that person is unique and I'm connecting with that and I want some of that. And the thing is, because we're following these people, when they do say no, you go with them. There's DJs I know, like, I don't know if you know, like Digo, Full Hero. Man's one of the most militant people I've ever met in my whole life. From the day I first met him, my introduction to him was I was overrunning my set. He comes in and stomps his record box down onto the table and is like, man's here now. From that day until now, he does how he rolls, how he wants to roll by his principles, and that's the reason I respect him. And I think all of us, if we really take a piece of paper and we write down the names of our biggest influences, the people that we really respect, not the ones who, that's a popular person because everyone likes them, but the ones where you're like, they're coming to town, I will starve for this week to go and hear that person play. What's the thing they all got in common? They're all mavericks, they all stand up for themselves, they're all pirates, they're all revolutionaries, and they do it because they know that the music is so important that actually, in order for the music to be presented in the right way, you got to say no, and you got to stand up for the music. Because the only thing that suffers when you basically relax your principles is the music. And that's the reason why we're in the situation we're in now, where Claire, going to a club is cool. My daughter's like just turned 18, like she's going to clubs, but she's not excited about it like I was, like, oh my God, like we're going to a club, this is amazing. She's like, it's all right. It's all right. We're like, you keep going on about the old days and da-da-da-da-da, like, I don't see any of that. It's just a load of people staring at the DJ with their phones out. You know, because ultimately, if you think about it, Saturday night DJing in some of the big clubs that we aspire to play in, that's the equivalent of playing in the Hippodrome or Cinderella Rockefellers back in the day, because that's the commercial. And a lot of us have been tricked into thinking that the commercial is really the underground. Let's create the new underground, people. And whilst we're doing it, let's make sure we do some balance so that when we're 50, 60, 70, we're still rocking.
Yeah, and it would be great to hear about Levvy's project as well, because you're doing exactly that. So would you like to tell everyone a bit about E.O.T.T?
Well, yes, my name is Levvy. E.O.T.T is a mental health project. It's a youth-based mental health project which works to normalise the conversation around, consideration of, an approach towards mental health, basically. And making it okay to not be okay, making it okay to go to therapy, talk about these things, and, you know, having strength in that vulnerability, you know. And to go back 4 years to when it first started, and I must precurse, I don't quite have the years as the decorated guests on the side of me, but I'll get there one day. I'm starting 4 years ago-ish. Actually, throughout my teenage years, I've always been like a very sensitive kid, very emotional, you know, troubled in some sense, and that's a whole other thing. Started to find a love in DJing and the community, the raving, believing God as a DJ, you know, connecting with the people through music, something bigger than myself. That's where I found my tribe. I found a love for UKG in particular. I also was very aware through my own family's troubles, you know, and stuff, and I had the experience of mental health. And thereafter, when I was seeing it more and more somebody sounds really louder now. Or is it? All right. This is my first time holding the mic, all right, so easy.
You sound perfect.
We can hear you.
Hey. And thank you, I've been Levvy, thank you very much. Where was I?
Your journey with mental health.
Family, yes, nice one. So yeah, then through that, and then someday I saw, you know, plastician talking about the scene and the mental health and the loneliness of DJs, and you know there was Avicii, you know, and the end of his story, unfortunately, and there was this is gonna be really embarrassing now, but what's the lead guy from Prodigy? You didn't even know either. Keith. All of that, you know, and so I was aware of what the issue was, seemingly, and coupled with my own troubles, but also rooted by my love of underground music and the connection that can bring, but the potential dangers of that. One day I was looking at UKG and just changed it around a bit and put a comma in there and a question mark, and then it read UKG. And I was like, it took a few days. I was like, that's kind of, okay. And then I went, oh, you KG. Like, you're a KG. Then I told my boys about it. They was like, you KG, yo, that's hard. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. Was going to do a t-shirt, but then it was like, nah, there's something more here. Like, what this UKG thing, you guys are laughing about it. No, it is funny, to be fair. But, like, you know, there was this, after a few days, weeks, months, came this, like, aspiration to, like, not just make it a t-shirt or, like, an Instagram post. And it's like, actually, this can be, there's something here which is, like, somewhat kind of funny, but it's relative, but it's checking on your G's, you know. It was symbolic and it embellished just approaching and checking up on your friends, you know. And so then thereafter came the idea of what E.O.T.T. one day became, and is still trying to become really, but an overall project which sits within the creative / music / fashion scene, which works towards normalizing the conversation of mental health. And so that's what we're trying to do, really. And we're 4 years deep in the game now, and we've got, we sell clothes, we fundraise for various charities like the NHS and Music Minds Matter. We've sold like thousands of items around the world in like every continent. You know, we've done collaborations with Keep Harsh, UKF, who's everyone, Pirate Studios. You know, we've been published in DJing mag, like people are seeing it. But more importantly, you know, it's just like, even for my own journey, like I'm at least a bit more healthy than I was a few years ago, and this time last year, you know, through just, like I always have to say to people, like, I'm no psychologist, you know, I'm no like therapist, you know, but and the same with the rest of our team, you know, but we all just give a shit, you know. And there was nothing when I was a teenager that spoke in my language, you know. Like, it's effectively, really, it's just Trojan horse, what we're doing. You know, we lure you in with the garage. And then we go, are you all right?
You know what, I'm going to clap to that part.
And so that's what we're doing, man. And it's working a bit. It's tough. I can't lie. It's tough, man. Like, it's up and down. Like funds and grants, like it's hard to keep it going. Like it's you know what social media is like, man, as well. And just being like strong myself, like it's come and go. You know, like I wish I was always practicing what I preach, but sometimes it's just hard, man. Sometimes I'll be trying to give gratitude in my head, and the other person in my head is just like, shut up. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's tough, man, but it's positive and it's honest. And that's what E.O.T.T does. And I'm probably going to give another shout at the end, but if you want any GARMs about mental health, if you want to come and connect at an event like a social, if you want to be signposted in like a normalized and like familiarized fashion, if you want to see some mental health messages that basically borrow from popular culture, kind of like sports banger, because it doesn't stop at UKG, by the way, then this is E.O.T.T. So thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Levvy. Thank you for sharing some of your experience as well. We really appreciate it. I think one thing that we can try and do today is like show you guys that like none of us fully know what we're doing, where we're going, but it's all a beauty in the process. So we've got some questions that have been submitted in advance, but I just want to focus on you guys first. So if there's anyone in the room who has a burning question, I would love to hear it. We've got one at the back there.
Hi guys, I'm Savannah, nice to meet everyone. Hope everyone's having a good day. Oh God, I'm 27 now and I've raved from the age of 14 and I've worked in events since God knows how long, but there has been a while until quite recently where I found there to be a difficult balance between having fun and professionalism. So I just wanted to maybe get advice from you guys on how do you balance from booze everywhere, having a good time, dancing, festivities, but then knuckling it down and just really getting the job done. Do you know what I mean? Because there's so many different people, so many different atmospheres, so many different vibes to work off. So how would you guys advise people to just stay straight?
Hey, Savannah. What's up? You too, love. It's something shifted in me a few years ago. Well, obviously, the kids thing is one thing. I haven't gone to an after party since I've had them. But it's true. I'm out, you know. But I think for me, I guess you kind of work mainly artist liaison, and I know I'm sure you do way more other things than that, but that's how I know you through many times seeing you in that kind of role. I guess the difference is, like, from a DJ perspective, is it just took a couple of messy gigs where I was like, you know what, that was just stupid. And it's actually mainly alcohol is the thing, being just drunk and then feeling so the shame afterwards of being like, you've been working at this since you were 16 and that is not how you perform, do you know what I mean? And then that, like, shame and guilt and them kind of feelings can really help trigger change, that I really kind of was like, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore. And the older I've got, the more I know, especially when I'm abroad, because I generally get the last plane that I can possibly get there and the first plane back. So the lack of sleep is a lot. Then you have to, you know, look after the kids. So I have been, I still, if I'm being totally honest, I've never been able to do a gig totally sober in all these years. I've got so close to it though, and I'm getting closer and closer and closer. I played with DJ Flight the other day. We did like an 8-hour set, and we only started drinking at 5 in the morning. We managed to do that, and then 5 in the morning we were like, fuck it, let's just have it. And we only had a couple of drinks, but I've never been able to do it like completely sober. I'm working on it, but it is really, really hard, especially in your role where it's kind of like fun and welcoming and vibey, and that's kind of like the aspect of it, and that is also your character as well. But I think I also have people around me who are sober, and that did something to me as well, really shifted things in me, whether that's out of choice or through recovery, has them like seeing them and the things that they do to protect themselves from staying away from booze and drugs and that lifestyle. It rubs off a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Having good friends that are sober has helped a lot. I don't really have like an absolute an answer for it, but I do think it is about practicing it and I feel like I'm really close to being able to be sober. I'm not there yet, but I think it's about, again, thinking about sustainability and longevity is a big thing for me. Do you know what I mean? I'm not getting any younger and thinking about if this is what I want to do for like another 20, 30, 40, forever, you know, how God knows how many more years, then it's like I have to really think about these things. When I was younger, I'd be like, oh, yawn, boring, do you know what I mean? What a fucking joy kill. And actually now it's like, no, it's like I take the job of what I'm doing as a DJ way more seriously. I spend so long hunting for records and crate digging and, you know what I mean, seeing like what a privilege it is to have this space and it being in control of this sound system for however many hours, that is precious, you know, and to really try and protect and buckle it down to the art of it and to be able to do the best I possibly can for the people there has, really helped to kind of reframe it for me.
May I add something, please? Would you mind? I think I was touching on a little bit what you said earlier about the sobriety. I think as well, it's like, you know, the way in which we talk about it or the way in which we present it, either with our own selves, but what you were saying about your sober friends, basically, that's like an example of kind of why to do it, especially when it's your friend as well. So I think it's like almost making, for want of a better word, but making sobriety look cool, you know? Like making it look good rather than saying, oh, drinking's bad. You know, because like going into something and saying, oh, that's bad, like there's always that little bit of you that goes, oh, but that kind of makes me want to do it more. But then it's like, if you're making the other option actually look good, which is probably similar to what we've done with the running, like making it look good, do you know what I mean? Making it look familiar. And again, it's the same thing with what we're trying to do with the mental health, is it's not always about like, oh, we need to check up on our G's more, which is good, but sometimes it's about, oh, thank you, G, for checking up on me, you know, and like presenting that in like a positive way. So yeah, I just think maybe the way we brand it or the way in which we talk about it, just like, making the sobriety look good rather than making the drinking look bad. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't drink. I only drink at kind of weddings and christenings. Because, you know, and that's another reason why I do run them, because everyone keeps dying early, so I want to go to more weddings and christenings. So, but I think one of the things is like, don't be embarrassed to say, actually, you know what, today I'm not drinking. I'm not doing anything. It's okay, you know. And I think I used to laugh. I used to go and DJ with like LA DJs and like, you know, end of the 90s, 2000s, and they'd all be doing like exercise routines in there. But, you know, in their hotels with their record boxes and going to the gym and eating kale salad and all that kind of stuff. And I'd just be laughing at them like, what's wrong? You're not supposed to be the big-time DJs, man. Come, let's get some drugs in and go do the thing. But when I check in with all those people now, they're the top boy bosses of their scene. And so I realise, actually, these guys are taking this like a job, like a real serious job. And they're turning up in optimum shape. They're almost treating this like this is the Olympics, like they're athletes. So the thing I started thinking to myself is, can I afford to get so mash up that I have a bad gig? Because I'm a like old black DJ trying to have a career in London. I can't really afford to have a bad gig. Because if I'm truthful, what happens is doors start to close. So then I realised, you know, hour of practice a day. If you know you've got a big gig on the weekend, we're going to start the hydration with the water on the Monday. And I started applying the lessons I was learning from running marathons is what I started bringing into my prep for DJ sets, you know, because I wouldn't go to a marathon and get mash up on the day before. Because as you know, you start to suffer. So I was just like, okay, let's just be, and eventually it just got to the point where it just became so normal that actually then I'm like, I don't even want the people in the box to be mash up and having the crazy one either. So it's almost kind of like, within the booth, this is how we are rolling. And again, it's about that thing of just being like strong enough in yourself to be like, this is my manifesto of how I'm going to roll so that when I'm 30, 40, 50, 60, I still have a career. And when they need a DJ, they call me because they know I'm going to turn up on time and I'm not going to get so mash up and drink off all the free booze and all of that kind of stuff because I'm professional.
It is kind of mad, like, to turn up to work and here's your bottle of tequila, there's your bottle of soda water, happy days. Do you know, it's like,
So
what
mad.
other, you don't really get that anywhere else. And I sometimes change my rider as well. We'll switch it, so it's just water and Diet Coke sometimes.
Yeah. I always have like a big bottle of. I bring my own water bottle, you know, and I get ice put in. So I have like cool, chilled water in the books at all times. And then there's fruit, and then afterwards there's kind of like hydration tablets I might take, and kind of like what I really do is like make sure Aftercare. One of the things that, you know, a lot of times if I'm in the cab on the way to the hotel, no music, because we're trying to bring our senses back down and get us, because ultimately what I don't want to have is when you get into the hotel room and you're so wired.
Yeah, should we talk about your like yoga experience as well? And like, do we have any artists, any DJs in the building, by the way? Okay. Does anyone feel like really intense feelings after coming off stage? Charlie, do you have any rituals to like come down from that high place?
Well, we're gonna, you know, we're not leaving the hotel room with the TV on, so that when we come back in, we're coming back to silence. We're keeping the lighting low, so we're not going from super bright lights into the cab into back super bright neon lights. You know, we're really trying to regulate the body and bring it down. Take an eye mask as well. Download on my phone kind of music to help me sleep. Could be ambient sounds, whatever. Earplugs. My missus puts the lavender super spray, sleepy spray, I don't know, in my DJ bag. So, you know, she's like, spray that on there. She's like a little kid, like spray that on there, you know, because she doesn't want me coming home super wired. And so, you know, that kind of stuff I think is, you know, is just really helpful. And then, you know, just, you know, I will take something to eat. I sound like some super robot guy right now.
No, not at all.
But I'm like, you know, something to eat that's almost like a treat. That's kind of, my body's got so used to that. It's like, oh, well, we're having this. It's a bit like when you're a kid. Oh, hot milk. Oh, sleepy time. You know? Because I realised, what I realised even from having my own kids is, as adults, we don't like rules. Oh, I want to be free. I want to, like, you know, when you see your kids and like you don't give them the rules, they just start acting wild. And I'm an adult and I've got money. So therefore, I'm going to be really super wild. So I had to start treating myself like a kid and not be embarrassed about it. That was the biggest thing, just being like, I'm not embarrassed about the fact that I didn't drink off the rider. That's okay. Oh, you don't want to be friends with me because of that? All right, that's okay. That's cool.
Yeah, nothing to prove here.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I see that as a flex, to be fair. Like, if you are getting up early, like if you are drinking water, and you can say no, I think that's cool, man. Like, that's what I'm trying to get to be fair. So I think it's just the way we talk to ourselves and each other, I think, is important.
Goldie is the person that changed my life. Because I know Goldie from like metalheads back in the day. You know, we're at Mowax, you got to go and take the dat to Goldie's house, and no one wants to go because we're so scared of what's going to happen, right? Now, 20, 30 years later, man's all zen, he's up in Bali in the pool, he's doing the yoga, and I was just like, whatever he did in the yoga world, whatever happened to him, has had such a profound effect. And he's the hardest guy in music I know, and he's not embarrassed to be in the Speedos and doing the thing, and that's the reason why I was trained to become a yoga teacher. Because of Goldie, I was just like, it's working for this guy, so let me dip in my toes in. And it's one of the, you know, best things that I've ever done, having this ability when you're super, like, to just release this medicine into your body. And after the thing about DJing is kind of, after you've been doing it for a while, your range of motion starts to become very limited. Shoulders, neck problems, all of this, which then starts manifesting itself in other parts of your body because it's compensating. So I'm like, yoga all the way.
I do a lot of yoga too. It's the one thing for me, because I've tried meditating so much and I find it really difficult, and the closest I get to it is moving meditation.
Yeah.
You know, like you can sometimes have it in a way, almost like with DJing, that kind of thing, you come out of it, you can't remember what you've played or how you played it, but you just feel totally kind of calm and at ease. And I found with yoga, I can, not always, but often get to that place. And for me, when I'm constantly kind of on the go, non-stop, for me it's just it's breath work, and it's just bringing it back. And I find after a gig as well, it's breathing. It's that simple for me. It's lying there, it's deep breathing, it's presence, it's not analysing the set too much or whatever and picking holes in it. Forget all of that. We're here now. And also for me, I get to sleep by myself in like a hotel without loads of kids in my bed, so it's like, make the most of it.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are scared of the words meditation and yoga because they think it has to be a certain way. And the thing I know from going to drum and bass and jungle raves is like, you know, you've got these all super epic breakdowns, and then 1,000 people have got their hands in the air with their eyes closed. That to me is meditation, you know? Same way with, you know, if I'm teaching yoga on a Monday and I'm like, Ura Hasvasana, and I'm using Sanskrit, essentially I'm telling you, close your eyes, put your hands up in the air. But as soon as you start putting Sanskrit around, everyone's like, what do I do? I'm just like, okay, remember it's Saturday night, Bookham's playing, breakdown, hands in the air. And that, again, is my thing, is kind of like, it's all about finding the right teacher who can translate the mystery into a language you understand. In the same way when you first started making tunes or mixing or DJing, it's like, it's a baffling. And then you get that person who's like, oh, okay, it's a bit, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you go. Like, I just count to 5 and then become a superstar DJ? Wicked, I'm on that. You know what I mean?
Oh, brilliant. All right, should we have another question?
Hey everyone, how are you?
We're good.
Good. So my question is around the word and the language balance. You know, in your intros, when you were being asked about what balance is for you, what I observed is that a lot of your answers went for balance within music. And I think you mentioned about music being this very insular space, you know. For me, I have that experience also. I think we put so much of our identity in this part of our identity, but actually beyond that limitation as a human, that is completely separate from the people that we're in the room here with, from our experience as an artist, a promoter, whatever your experience is within music. And what I'm curious to know is how do you create balance for yourself as a human? Because actually, what I find is that informs the other part of me. And that's at the root and the core of it. You know, that part of me needs to be centered before the rest of it can be. And it kind of feeds into that rather than the other way around. Because I've done that the other way around, it's not sustainable. So what does that mean for you?
What, like, do you mean to do with create? Like, is there a certain
take your musical identity out of the equation and think of just you as the human that you are, and how you cultivate balance for yourself in just your human identity. Yeah. How do you do that, and then how does that feed in back into your musical identity by adding that layer back on?
I mean, it's quite a big question for me, because if I think about it, there's so many parts that make us up who we are in terms of a human. Like what we're talking about there in terms of like physically, there's the yoga side of things for sure, which has helped me a lot, which I haven't done actually for like ages, for like the last month. But then there's also, for me, kind of spiritual side a little bit, which I've only been in the last kind of year, kind of been dabbling with, because you hear kind of spirituality and you just think of some like guru who's generally exploitative, like culturally appropriating, you know, kind of Sanskrit. And actually, what I mean by it is like presence, basically, because particularly the last year, had a lot of anxiety and a lot of kind of worries that I felt through doing yoga, through finding presence, through bringing it all back to breath work in the here and now, made me be able to cope with a lot of things, and realising that anxiety is generally worrying about the future, depression about the past. Having children has been the biggest grounding, explosive thing that has ever happened to me as well. As hard as it is and as difficult as it is, and balancing children kind of doesn't really go in life, but it has completely grounded me, and all the kind of like industry and he said, she said, and all this stuff just doesn't affect me at all like it used to. Like, you know, when you have children, it kind of just centers you in a way where it really brings you back to the essence of kind of what's important in life. And I think then when you are able to have a little bit of balance in that way, it gives you space in your head to allow creativity to come through. Without that, I feel stifled and blocked. And, you know, like in the same way that I tell my children that I have to make music in order to be a better mum, it all kind of feeds into each other, you know? Absolutely.
I mean, I would say that if I hadn't found running, I would have probably, you know, taken my own life by now, because I didn't have an identity outside of music. Just every waking moment was, you know, spent basically trying to crack the code to get into the next level. Because, you know, if I was really honest with myself, DJing was very much about, I feel insignificant, in this school that I've gone to. Culturally, no one's really supporting me. But as in the DJ booth, I can reinvent myself, give myself a new name, new persona, and that became all-consuming. So finding running just an outlet where I could just go and, you know, when you go to first start running, it's very humbling because it doesn't care that you rocked 5,000 people the night before. It's just like, you can't even run like you were doing when you were 15. Look what you've done to yourself. So you start having these conversations with yourself, which are very like, I've got to start at the beginning again. And that's the hardest thing I think as a musician or creative is to put your ego aside, to start at the beginning again. Because it's a vulnerable and scary space to be, you know? And so for me, I always say to people, it's like, find something out of the thing that is now, was previously the passion, but now feeding you. Find something else that you can put your teeth into, where you turn up and they're like, we don't care that you're Mr. Run Them, don't care that you got an MBE, don't care that you're Charlie Dark, don't care that you made records. Kids are very much like that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, you know what I mean? Because my son was today like, why are you wearing them trainers, bro? Them trainers are dead out, man. Like, brother, you're the Maharaji. But yeah.
Showing them like a YouTube video at a festival. Look, kids, like, yeah, can I go on YouTube? And you're like,
yeah.
Right.
And hang out with people who don't care. That's really, really like, you know, I used to get mad when I come in from like, you know, my missus would be like, yeah, so you got to do this, you know, you got to clean the bathroom and take the rubbish out. And I'm like, but I'm a superstar DJ.
Do you know who I am?
Did you just see what I just did? Like, I don't care. Like, in this house, and that was, again, really, really important.
Really helps for building out your identity so that you don't just rely on the music.
Yeah.
We're running out of time, actually, so I'm going to crack on with questions. Is the microphone still... Oh, you've got one.
This guy, he should know.
Allow it.
But let me expose you, yeah.
I rest.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
okay,
no, listen. I was thinking, I think a lot of balance healing work is often like, it's been branded. It's like, let me go home, listen to that Cleo soul. Let me just like, you know, I'm an island, you know, let me find my boundaries. It's me, centered away from everything. But this year, I feel like I've learned that like a lot of the best things are made in the darkness. Like there's a lot of vibes that come out of the club. There's a lot of things that come out of like dark spaces. And usually a lot of these collectives and things that blow up are always a response to something, right? It's just that we give them the meaning of like being an institution, or suddenly they have these crazy roles after a while, right? So like, I'm just thinking about like this point of balance and healing. How do you give yourself or build the resilience, first of all, to have the capacity to engage with the darkness? And what are like tips and tricks to help you guys to like, not necessarily see yourself as like, oh, let me go home and do namaste Sanskrit all the time. Perfect. I love semantics. Was it somatics? Somatics, mind and body connection into it. But also, how do you dabble with that crazy person who you don't even know what they do in the industry, but somehow they're always there, they're always drunk, and they're always about. So it's like, how do you go back into those spaces, and how do you sustainably?
They cannot win. They cannot let them win. You cannot let these people win. That's one of the things. I just laugh at these people. I'm just like, you will never win. I'm going to outwork you. I'm going to outthink you. You're not going to win. You're not going to crush me. Definitely not. And I can't, you know, and I say it with my chest as well. And also what I realised, it comes with the territory. The industry that we're in.
So when you say dark spaces, do you mean clubs, or do you mean like your dark inner self? Sorry.
I was wondering about as well.
I think people are very pure, like Puritans when it comes to, oh, let me go heal, let me just disappear from the world. And so a lot of like the capacity to dance with the demons disappears, because you're like, oh God, like, yo, I'm not doing this. It's not why I left in the first place. So a lot of people don't have the resilience to return. Like, this is how the burnout kind of catches a lot of people. So like, what tips do you have to like build that resilience, keep it, stay in different spaces?
Or does anyone want to share an experience of when you took a step out of the industry, and then how have you prepared yourself to like come back in and made yourself strong enough to come back in?
This might sound a little bit out of the blue, to be fair, but it wasn't really a choice. It was more just because I was really broke, to be fair. But I wasn't getting any gigs of DJing or whatever, and the clothes sales went for a bit of a bad low point of the fluctuation curve, anyway. And I had to start doing KPing, basically. And it wasn't really a choice, but it was more of a forced thing. And through that experience, like, I hated it, man. Like, I hated it. And, like, there was this fuel inside me, man, which maybe is somewhat the demon you're sort of referring to. And then again, kind of similar to what you was just saying about how you go and you put yourself in a space where no one cares if you're a DJ, you know. They just want you to fucking keep washing, do you know what I mean? And so that actually, in turn, it wasn't a choice, but it was actually a really useful thing for my creativity, because it filled me up, you know, and it filled me up with some in some sense a bit of rage, but also like there was this one particular week where I had to do 5 days. I worked at agency, so I was always at a different place each week, so I always had a different boss for the week, whatever, and they were just winding me up, man, but I had to work. And the first couple of days, every time the guy was coming up to me, he was saying, "Oh, no, do this, do that," because I didn't know. I knew obviously not to wash dishes in it, but there's different places to put the things and different kitchens, rah rah rah. Anyway, he kept coming up to me saying, "You got to do this, you got to do this," and every time he walked up, I was going, "This fucking guy, man." He's like, he's on my fucking case. Why does he care so much? He's on minimum wage just like me. Why does he give a shit? Do you know what I mean? Like all this stuff, and I was being just a bitch basically, and. It got to Tuesday evening, and I was saying to myself, like, "Yo, man, you gotta do better than this. Like, you gotta start talking to yourself, like, in a nicer way, basically, because I'm only making it harder for myself, you know." And so the next day, Wednesday, I was being really like, stupidly opportunistic and just saying, like, using all this machinery and saying, "Oh wow, what a great opportunity this is to use this machinery," you know. And the same guy that was coming up to me and going, "Come on, like, put it over there." When he was coming up to me, I was laughing to myself. So when he was coming up to me this time, I would say to myself, "Oh wow, it's great to be working with someone who's so passionate about the job." You know, and just like, it didn't make me better, but it stopped me getting worse, for real. And I got to the end of the week, and it was just like the way I was talking to myself, you know, like that was a big thing for me. So coupled with just throwing yourself into something, but you kind of just have to do it, man. Like, you know, I really back the whole, like, you know, take time if you need to, you know, especially with the message I'm shouting, which is mental health, and, you know, go to therapy if you need to, have a day off if you need to. But at the same time, sometimes you have just got to just kind of get on with it. I think I have to get on with it sometimes, because there's only so many days of the slacking and that I can do. So in one sense, I would say, to summarize and to conclude, I would say keep it moving, for one, and the way we talk to ourselves is massive for me. The way in which to talk to ourselves.
I agree. I have it often like mid-set, and I talk to myself like I would one of my kids or my best mates or someone you love, because the other voice is horrible, telling you you're rubbish. That person over there doesn't look like they're having the best time ever. You know what I mean? You're picking out all these negatives. And so to really have that inner voice of calm and kindness and reassurance and just to be compassionate and gentle to yourself, I think is so important, because we all have the other voice as well, and you've got to be really strong to fight it away.
One of the things running has taught me is learning to be comfortable with the feeling of uncomfortable. Because in that space of moment, you know, it's kind of like when someone's pinching you and it's like, "Oh, that kind of hurt. Oh, that's kind of quite nice." Yeah? I kind of quite like that. Yeah? Right? So I think actually a lot of times what happens is we kind of have this other side that we kind of, as soon as it rears its head, we get really frightened, because we've been taught that actually that's bad, that's a scary person. Actually, sometimes when you spend time in that moment with that other voice in your head, it provokes a more positive reaction or a change to happen. So when Charles turns up, I'm like, "All right, mate, I ain't seen you for a while, cool." It's like, you know what I mean? Let's see what we're going to learn about each other today. You know, it's okay. Like, you know, we all have it. And it's, you know, some of us are great. We can harness, and some of us can't. But you're never going to know unless you confront. Yeah. You know what I mean? So you got to get into that space and just kind of have that moment of it.
Sometimes as well, to add to that as well, I think I can find it useful to actually be thankful for my pains and challenges, you know, like obviously with the KPN experience aforementioned, but also just day to day when like my manager's just grilling me. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's annoying at the time, or when my boy, my partner, who is like the person I love the most, but also he winds me up the most as well, you know? But like, me and him, we've shared this with each other like just last week, and then I was just like, I said to him, but, you know, I'm thankful that the person that does wind me up is one of my best friends. You know, it's a good thing. but also the pains and the difficulties keep us moving, you know, and they're a chance for growth. You know, I think I've just stolen like a Tumblr quote there, to be fair. But if not, print it up on a sunset somewhere, man.
There's no growth in stillness.
But yeah, I think just facing the fear, I think is a good it's hard. It's hard, but yeah, through the hardness becomes the easiness.
It's quite natural. Because it's quite natural to be scared. Because it is a bit scary sometimes. You know, you walk out on stage and there's like all these people and they're all looking at you like whoa, like you've all come to see me. I don't know what I'm doing. Do you know what I mean? And again, that's the reason maybe because why I've kind of put all these principles in place. Because in my heart, I feel, well, I'm not as good as the other people who it comes naturally to. So I've got to work twice as hard. But I know that by doing that, when I'm doing my water routine on a Monday, and like what I'm essentially doing is getting my body ready and my mind ready so that when I have that moment when I'm walking out onto the stage, I don't have the super beating heart, and I arrive in a place of balance because I know I put the things in place. And again, that just comes from kind of like looking at footballers who've had really long careers and being like, yo, Ryan Giggs is like, he was playing when I was at like just in primary school. What, he's still playing now? He does that yoga thing that Goldie does. Okay, let me go and check that out. You know, and I think that's kind of like, it's okay to copy and imitate what other people are doing. This is the reason why I say your Instagram feed is like, if people are coming up in your feed who basically are not filling you with joy or educating you in some way, they got to go. Because a lot of us, the first thing we do in the morning is we reach to see how our rivals are doing in life. He's been DJing for a year and he's already playing Defected. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And then we just start all of that. It's kind of like, bruv, like everyone, as I always say to people, it's a bit like teaching people how to mix. Some people get it straight away. Some people it takes a year. Some people it takes 6 months. Some people never get it. There's no set date that you should achieve the thing. It happens when you are ready to receive it. I'm a much better DJ now as a 50-year-old than what I was a 19-year-old because I've got this balance. So now I care about not playing the abstract free jazz record and clearing the floor. Whereas before I was like, I'm Charlie Dark, I'm on Moax, man, I don't care. You got to hear this right now. No, they don't, bruv. You know what I mean? It's the way. So, yeah.
All right, let's squeeze in one more question. Do you want to?
Hi.
Whoa.
Am I loud enough?
Heavyweights are in the room now, people. Lock yourselves in.
Thanks to Hallie. This looks wicked in there, by the way. It looks really, really good. You've done an amazing job. Just wanted to just put that out there first. Secondly, you guys, you know, you're speaking from a perspective of you're seasoned in the game, yeah? But what advice would you give to the budding DJ producer who's still living at his mum's or her mum's, and they're DJing and they believe that, I'm good at this, I can maybe make a career out of this, and they already have a job, or maybe they don't have a job, but let's say they do, and they're considering now leaving that job to go and DJ. I saw your eyes open wide there, Charlie. But yeah, just on the advice of that, really.
I actually would want to say, first of all, enjoy living at your mum's and the cheap rent whilst it lasts.
I still live at my mum's. No, I'm joking.
I still am at mum's, proudly. And the rent is very cheap. And I'm the last one laughing in the conversations with my friends and their council tax. And that thing is good for the DJing, because then I don't have to stress so much about having to earn X amount, and that gives me X more hours to do the DJing, or in my case, writing the messages and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not the experienced DJ on this panel here, but I think there's definitely something in, I firmly believe anyway, just no rush, Again, talk to yourself in like a opportunistic way if you can, and not be like, oh, I'm still living at mum's, Be like, thank you, mum.
I'd wait as long as possible until you make that switch, because it changes everything. And like I was saying, it's such a vulnerable job. I still find it weird saying job. Do you know what I mean? It feels very weird. But it is. It's like, there's there's nothing set in place in terms of how much money you're going to get. And so you can have some months where it's just sick and suddenly all these last minute gigs come in and it's brilliant. And then other months that look totally dead out and you can feel really insecure, and it creates a lot of pressure. And especially if you're there making music as well, to have that added stress on top of you. I do think as well, people should really think about it in terms of sustainability and longevity. You know, I love the saying, music is a mission, not a competition. And you don't have to do it as a job unless you really want to as well. Like, there's brilliant DJs who have like other jobs as well, and that's totally cool to prop it up. I think there's this idea that having it as a full-time job is the be-all and end-all, and I think it does create a certain element of like stress to it as well. You know, if you're then making and creating and you're also thinking about outcome, it's not a great place to be in terms of creativity and art. Really, you want to be making music just for the sake of making music. That's it, and seeing what comes, not thinking about labels or anything like that. And that way, you know, you'll be able to get into that flow state and in that beautiful place where your true inner creativity can shine. And I think having the financial pressure on top of that can be really difficult. But if you get to a place where it's like, it's feeling like, hang on a minute, I'm actually really earning enough now, and it's been like that, you know, for maybe a good few months, to then be able to quit your job, it would be the place to do it. But don't rush into it at all, because, you know, there's, you know what, in all honesty, I'll be real with you, I've even thought about slowing down on some gigs and taking up a part-time job as well, you know, because there's other things that I am really passionate about in life. But I think there's this idea that it's like the absolute dream for everybody to be doing it full-time, and it is wicked, it has got its perks, absolutely, but also propping it up financially with something that is kind of, that gives you stability, puts you in a really great state to be able to create.
It's a very powerful place when you've got something else bubbling that allows you to say no, you know, and that's the kind of one of the things that I've always tried to kind of maintain. When I find that I'm leaning too much into it's all income and all joy is coming just from the DJ, that's when it's suddenly not as enjoyable anymore, because the pressure goes up, you know. And then also it's kind of like, it's always really important to have something else that you're building your name over here, because it gives you this kind of confidence when promoters saying to you, oh mate, your name, I want to book you, but your name's not big enough. Like, bro, what are you talking about, bro? I just got an MBE. Like, you talking there? What do you mean my name's not big enough? Do you know what I mean? But having something else, really important. The thing I say to people, if you are thinking about leaving home, leaving the job, you have to be really honest with yourself, is like, how disciplined are you? You know, I come back to Digo again. I remember calling him, and it's 10 o'clock in the morning, and he's like, yeah, you know, I just kind of got a couple more hours in the studio. I was like, bro, it's 10 o'clock in the morning. He's like, yeah, but I was in at 6. And I'm leaving at 2. And I was just like, in my mind, you go to the studio as late as possible and you stay as late as possible. But so meeting these new people who are looking at it in a different way, breaking the traditional rules, that's kind of really helpful. So if you are going to basically make the leap, make sure you're making it for the right reasons, not just for your ego, because you want to be at a party and be like, what do you do? Yeah. I'm a DJ.
That's embarrassing now, though, isn't it?
Yeah, people
don't worry.
Yeah, I was at a wedding last week. They were looking at me like, you loser. Like,
exactly.
Oh, are you still messing around with that DJ thing? Yeah, sorry.
All right, well, there's been such amazing, helpful insights in this panel, so thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Thanks for all your questions as well. If you want to carry on exploring balance, then Tempo's in here at 4:45. We're going to be doing breath work and tips for building longevity in a career that you love. Thank you again to our panelists, and thank you everyone for listening.
Run them Tuesdays, come down. Or go to Tempo.
Want to say the Instagram?
Yeah, for anyone that's still listening, our Instagram for the mental health kids in the chat, eott.uk. UKG.